You ever have one of those moments where your heart stops? Not because you're scared, but because you realize someone has just made the biggest mistake of their life. That was exactly what happened when HOA Karen busted into my lake cabin, without knocking, without permission, and without the faintest clue about who was inside with me. And believe me, by the time she figured it out, it was already way too late. But let's rewind, because this all began way before things reached the boiling point. I bought my lake cabin for one reason: peace. I work long hours, deal with enough headaches, and all I wanted was a piece of quiet where the only sound at night was the wind hitting the water. But of course, the HOA had other plans for me. Or, more accurately, one person in the HOA: Karen. She wasn't just any HOA member, she was the type who believed the entire neighborhood was her personal kingdom. She'd walk around with a clipboard like it was a royal scepter, writing violations that made no sense, sending emails at 5 a.m. about people's trash cans and threatening fines for invisible infractions. We're talking peak HOA villain energy. The cabin wasn't even under normal HOA jurisdiction. It was in a gray area where ownership technically removed it from their authority. But Karen didn't believe in gray areas. To her, everything was black and white. And she was always right. So when she started telling me I needed to register my cabin with the HOA, I ignored her. When she said my cabin deck railings were not HOA compliant, I ignored her again. And when she demanded I give her a key to inspect for safety and structural purposes, I laughed and hung up. That probably flipped some internal switch because her obsession with my cabin only got worse. Fast forward to last Thursday, the day everything went down. It was early morning, fog still hanging over the lake, and I had driven up to the cabin for a special meeting. Not just any meeting, but one with the state attorney general and 2 investigators. I'd been helping the state gather information on corruption and misuse of HOA funds, something that several homeowners had suspected for years. My role was small, but important. The AG wanted to meet quietly, off the record, and the cabin was perfect for privacy. We sat inside, drinking coffee, reviewing documents, going over potential testimony. The mood was serious but hopeful, like justice was finally moving. And then we heard footsteps. At first, I figured it was a raccoon or maybe a deer stepping onto the porch, but the footsteps were too heavy, too deliberate. Then came the sound of metal hitting wood. A tool. A lockpick? A wrench? One of the investigators glanced at me. "Are you expecting someone?" I shook my head, already feeling my stomach tighten. Before I could even stand up, the front door's lock snapped with a loud crack, and then it swung open. And there she was. Karen. Not just stepping in, busting in. She barreled through the doorway, holding her clipboard like a shield, eyes blazing with the kind of righteous fury only she could generate. "I've told you repeatedly this cabin must be inspected, and since you refuse to cooperate, I am taking corrective action on behalf of the HOA." She thought she was walking into a victory. She had no idea she had just walked into the state attorney general. When Karen finally realized 4 sets of eyes were staring back at her, including one belonging to a man wearing a state seal on his jacket, she froze mid-rant. Her face shifted in slow motion from anger to confusion to horrified disbelief. You could practically see her brain trying to process the situation like an outdated computer overheating. The Attorney General stood up calmly. He wasn't a tall man, but he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone used to dealing with people who seriously mess up. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady, "you've just broken into private property." Karen blinked, twice. Then her lips curled into a shaky smile. No, you don't understand. This property is under HOA regulation. I have full authority to enter for inspection." The AG raised one eyebrow. "And you are?" "I am the HOA compliance chairwoman," she snapped, as if expecting applause. One of the investigators leaned back in his chair. "Do you have a warrant?" The color drained from Karen's face like someone pulled the plug. I don't need a warrant. I have HOA bylaws." The Attorney General's expression didn't change, but the room temperature did.
HOA bylaws do not grant you the authority to forcibly enter a homeowner's property, especially when the property is not under your jurisdiction. Additionally, breaking a lock is considered forced entry, which is a criminal offense. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again, her words collapsing inside her throat. I sat there watching, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and secondhand embarrassment. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then, in true Karen fashion, she tried to twist reality into her version of events. "This resident has been non-compliant and evasive," she insisted, pointing her clipboard at me. "He refused multiple inspection notices, and that is grounds for immediate enforcement action, according to Section—" "Ma'am," the AG interrupted, "I oversee the interpretation of state law, not you, and what you just did is illegal under state statute." I swear I saw her soul leave her body for a second. Karen's hand tightened around her clipboard. "Then why are you all here? Who are you people? Why is the state involved with this cabin?" The investigators turned to me, giving permission with their eyes. I took a deep breath and stood up. "Because," I said slowly, "we're investigating financial misconduct in several HOAs across the state, including yours." Karen staggered back as if someone had physically hit her. What? That's ridiculous. We run everything by the book." One investigator opened a folder on the table. "Does running things by the book include misallocating maintenance funds, inflating violation fines, overbilling homeowners, and authorizing non-approved charges to HOA accounts without board votes?" Karen swallowed hard. We all heard it. "That's not— those reports were— someone else did those things," she stammered, her voice cracking. The AG took one step toward her, not threatening, just firm. "We have reason to believe several individuals on your board may have violated state law. This meeting was scheduled here because we needed a confidential location to review sensitive material." And I added, unable to resist, "You just turned a civil investigation into a criminal one." Karen's knees literally buckled. She grabbed the back of a chair from keeping from collapsing. "I didn't know," she whispered. "You didn't ask," I replied. You could feel the whole weight of the moment pressing down on her, the clipboard slipping in her hands, her authority evaporating, her entire world flipping upside down. But the worst part for her was still coming.
Karen tried to back toward the doorway, her voice shaky, her confidence shattered. I'll just leave. I was only here to make sure everything was safe." But the AG raised a hand. "Ma'am, please stay where you are." She froze mid-step like a malfunctioning robot. The investigators stood up slowly, and the energy in the room shifted from shocked to official. One of them pulled out a small recorder, clicking it on. "For the record," he said, "the individual known as Karen, full name to be confirmed, has entered this property without owner consent and appears connected to matters currently under review in the financial audit of the Lakeside HOA." Karen's eyes darted between the recorder, the Attorney General, and me. Her breathing became uneven. No, this can't be happening. I was just doing my job. I was told the cabin had safety violations. I was told the board approved an inspection." "One board member told you that?" the AG asked. She hesitated. "Yes, the treasurer." The AG looked at the investigators. "Write that down." Karen suddenly looked like she realized she'd said the wrong thing. "Wait, no. He just mentioned something about code checks, nothing official. Maybe I misunderstood." One investigator closed his folder. "Ma'am, are you aware that your treasurer is under active investigation for misusing over $40,000 of homeowner funds?" Her jaw dropped so far I honestly thought it might hit the floorboards. "What? No, that can't be right." He listed those expenses as community improvements, yet there are no records of improvements, no receipts from approved vendors, and no board votes supporting the expenditures. Karen's voice cracked. "We trusted him. He said everything was accounted for." I stepped closer, not out of anger, but out of truth. "You trusted him enough to break into my cabin?" Her eyes filled with panic.
I didn't break in. I just opened the door. By snapping the lock in half, I reminded her. The Attorney General approached her slowly. You didn't think to check property boundaries, jurisdiction maps, ownership records? You didn't think to obtain homeowner consent? Karen's voice was barely a whisper. I thought, as compliance chair, I could enforce rules anywhere within the neighborhood. This cabin isn't under your HOA, I said, gently but firmly. It hasn't been for years. The HOA had no authority here. Karen looked like she might collapse. Tears welled in her eyes, the kind that come not from sadness, but from the crushing realization that everything you believed was wrong. Her hands were trembling. So, what happens now? The Attorney General exchanged glances with the investigators, then spoke with a calmness so absolute it made the moment feel even heavier. That depends on two things. One, your cooperation regarding what the treasurer told you, and two, whether you intend to walk back outside and pretend none of this happened, or whether you want to take responsibility for your actions right here, right now. Karen wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I don't know. I just wanted to do my job. And that's the problem. You weren't doing your job. You were overstepping your authority because you believed the HOA gave you power over people's lives. Her shoulders slumped. The fight left her body. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she whispered. But you did. And now we need the truth. Karen slowly nodded. She took a shaky breath, then said the words that changed everything. Okay, I'll tell you everything.
Karen sat down slowly, almost collapsing into the chair as if her legs could no longer hold her. She stared at the table, breathing hard, her confidence completely stripped away. The Attorney General nodded to the investigators, signaling them to start recording. Begin wherever you feel comfortable, one said gently. Karen swallowed. The treasurer, he told us we needed to be more aggressive with enforcement. He said violations were revenue opportunities. He said if we increased fines and inspections, we'd have enough money to finally fix the front entrance, repave the trails, replace the old security cameras, everything the board promised homeowners for years. I felt a pressure in my chest as I listened. That explained so much. The sudden wave of petty violations, homeowners complaining about surprise penalties, the aggressive tone of HOA letters. And you believed him? The AG asked. Karen nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. He was confident. He had spreadsheets, charts, everything looked official. He said we were falling behind financially and needed to tighten control. So I did what he said. I enforced everything. I didn't question anything. One investigator leaned forward. Did you know he was pocketing the money? Karen shook her head quickly. No, I swear I didn't know. I never saw a single report that showed anything suspicious. He handled all financials. He told us the board approved everything, but now I'm not sure if anyone else ever saw the actual numbers. The AG exchanged a look with the team. This part matched several homeowner complaints. I took a step closer. Karen, how long has this been happening? She wiped her trembling hands on her pants. About a year, maybe a little more. At first, the violations were small, but then he started pushing harder. He'd tell me who to target, people who were behind on dues, people he didn't like, people who had argued with him. He said it was a way to balance the budget. A wave of disgust rolled through me. So he used you as the enforcer. Karen nodded miserably. And I let him. I liked the authority. I felt important, like I was protecting the neighborhood. But I didn't realize I was being manipulated. Her voice cracked into a sob. The AG kept his tone calm but firm. Ma'am, we're not here to destroy you, but we need honesty. Did you knowingly authorize illegal entries, false violations, or unwarranted fines?
Karen squeezed her eyes shut. "Not knowingly, but yes, I enforced things I shouldn't have. I didn't verify anything. I just followed orders." One investigator leaned forward. Why this cabin? Why break in?" Karen looked at me with guilt deep in her eyes. "The treasurer said you were hiding financial documents and refusing inspection. He told me you were undermining the HOA and might be planning legal action." She turned back to the AG. "I swear I thought I was preventing something dangerous." The AG nodded slowly. "Your cooperation is noted, but breaking into private property, especially during an active state investigation, that's serious." Karen's breath hitched. "Will I be arrested?" The room went silent for a moment. Finally, the AG said, "Your actions today will be documented. Whether charges are filed will depend on additional evidence and your continued cooperation. But understand this. You created a serious breach of privacy and interfered with an active investigation. There will be consequences." Karen nodded with a defeated acceptance. "I'll cooperate. I'll help however I can." And then something unexpected happened. She looked straight at me, eyes red, voice shaking. "I'm sorry. For everything. For the letters, the harassment, the threats. I thought I was doing the right thing." And for the first time since I'd known her, I believed her. But apologizing wasn't going to undo what came next. After gathering every detail Karen knew, the investigators stepped outside to make some calls. Karen stayed seated, staring blankly at the floor, her clipboard untouched on the table. She suddenly looked small, fragile even. Not the storm that used to knock on people's doors demanding compliance, not the HOA tyrant everyone feared. Just a woman who'd finally seen the truth crashing down around her. The Attorney General closed the door behind the investigators and sat across from her. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you need to understand something very important. The treasurer didn't just mislead you, he used you." Karen nodded slowly, still shaking. "I realize that now." The AG continued. "He counted on you being overconfident. He counted on you not questioning him. And most importantly, he counted on you being willing to cross lines other board members wouldn't." A fresh tear slipped down her cheek. "I just wanted the neighborhood to be perfect. I thought being strict meant being responsible." The AG shook his head. "Authority without accountability is dangerous, and HOAs are not law enforcement agencies." I finally spoke. "Karen, people were scared of you. Some of us avoided our own homes because we didn't want to deal with the constant harassment." She buried her face in her hands. "I know, and I can't undo it." The AG softened his tone. "You can help us make it right, but you need to tell the truth about everything, not just today's break-in." Karen nodded again. "I will." The investigators re-entered minutes later. One of them handed the AG a phone. "Sir, it's confirmed. The treasurer attempted to access HOA accounts this morning and transferred files off the server before it was disabled." Karen gasped. "He's running?" The AG exhaled sharply. "We have officers heading to his residence now. Your cooperation just became even more crucial." Karen looked like her world had fully collapsed. Her hero, her trusted colleague, the person she defended every single meeting, now exposed and fleeing. One of the investigators turned to me. "We'll need your official statement as well, but what you witnessed today may play a big role in charges." I nodded. "Whatever helps the homeowners get justice." Karen wiped her face again. "What happens to me now?" The AG paused before speaking. "You'll likely face civil penalties for forced entry and misuse of authority, possibly more depending on what else we uncover, but your cooperation may significantly reduce consequences." Karen nodded slowly, accepting her fate. Then something surprising happened. She stood up, straightened her clothes, took a deep breath, and said, "Then let's finish this. If I'm going down, the treasurer is coming with me." For the first time since she barged into the cabin, her voice sounded steady, not with arrogance, but with determination. The AG nodded approvingly. Good. We'll escort you for your safety. This investigation just became criminal on multiple levels. As everyone prepared to leave, I stepped onto the porch and looked out over the lake. The fog had finally lifted, revealing calm, clear water. It felt symbolic, like the truth was finally visible. Karen walked out behind me, stopping at the broken lock she'd snapped earlier. She touched it gently, eyes heavy with regret. I really messed up. Yeah, I said, not unkindly, but at least now we can fix the mess. She gave a small nod. Thank you for not yelling. I deserve worse. I shrugged softly. Sometimes the worst punishment is realizing you were wrong. The AG walked up, placing a hand on her shoulder. Let's go. We have work to do. We all headed toward the vehicles, the weight of justice and consequences moving with us. Karen may have burst into that cabin thinking she was enforcing HOA authority. Instead, she exposed corruption, triggered a criminal investigation, and accidentally walked into the state attorney general's meeting. And that mistake, it changed everything.